here is an example. So you just want to follow along with me as I do this right now. So we have 3 different outcrops. Location X, which, I don't know, let's say is in New York City. We have location Y, let's say that's upstate, a little further, like Westchester County. And then location Z, let's say, is further upstate in like Albany. Okay, so widely separated geologic outcrops. Sometimes they call them columns. And none of these have fossils in them. So this first example is just about the rock layers themselves. So this is an example that you don't have to move around so that you can keep everything in the correct order, okay? And the next slide is showing you those same exact outcrops, but for these, you can click on them and move them around. So the whole point here is that we're trying to correlate these. We're trying to match them up. So for example, I like to start at the bottom first and try to see, which ones seem to match up? Well, let's see, I see a gray siltstone, and I don't see a gray siltstone in location Y or Z, but I see a green shale here. I see a black shale in location Y. Not the same one though. Aha, but in location Z, I see a green shale. So I'm going to move my gray siltstone down a bit and my green shale down a bit so that my green shale over here in location X and my green shale in location Z match up. In other words, they are at the same level, right? So remember, the bottom layers are always the oldest, and then this green shale is the next oldest layer. So I have them in the same line. It's just helpful for us to see that and to think about that. This is kind of cool. You can't do this in the classroom unless you cut up your piece of paper, right? So this is kind of cool. We can actually do this online, and normally we can't do this in the classroom. All right, what would be next? After the green shale is the tan limestone. Oh, and here's a tan limestone here. So I'm going to bring this down. Oh, you know what? It's not exactly lined up. So what I'm going to do is if I click up here and drag, I can highlight all 3 of these layers. And now I can move them all down so that they match up with this tan limestone, which means then I'm going to have to move my green shale over here in location Z down so that it matches up with the green shale in location X. So now I've got them all lining up. I'm pretty happy about this. The next one on top of tan limestone in location Y is the black shale. So I'm going to move this black shale in location X down. So it looks like that's the next layer that was deposited on top of the tan limestone. Oh, and look here. On location Z, there's also a tan limestone. Let me move that down on top of the green shale. And the black shale in location Z is on top of the tan limestone. So now look, see how they're all lining up? Ah, all is right in the world. That makes me very happy, right? So now they're all at the same spot. What's next? Let's see. On top of the black shale, red sandstone, or is it the conglomerate in location X? Ah, no, look, in location Y, there's a conglomerate, but it's on top of the red sandstone. So the red sandstone must have been deposited first and then the conglomerate. But for some reason, the red sandstone is missing in location X. Why is it missing in location X? Could be 2 reasons. Maybe it just was never deposited. Maybe there just wasn't an ocean there or a body of water in location X for that sandstone to get deposited. There was just no sand, right? That's a beach. A beach eventually turns into sand. So maybe it just didn't extend all the way down to New York City, say, right? Or maybe it did get deposited there in location X, but then it got eroded away later on before the conglomerate got deposited. That could happen too. So that's 2 possible reasons why the red sandstone might not have gotten deposited or might not show up in location X. Either it never got deposited or it was deposited, but then it eventually weathered and eroded away. Okay, all right, what's next? We've got conglomerate. On top of the conglomerate in location Y is the gray limestone. Oh, and it's over here in location X. So I'm going to bring that down and line that up. And location Z, it's in location Z as well. Ooh, but look, in location Z, they're missing the conglomerate, right? So again, either didn't get deposited or it was deposited and it eroded away. What's next? Brown siltstone? Yep. Brown siltstone in location Y? Yep. There's no other things on top of the gray limestone in location X, but that's okay. And then my unconsolidated glacial deposits. So now that we've gotten these all correlated together, we know they've matched up. We've matched up the different rock layers, and we know which ones came first, second, third, fourth. Now, if I were to ask you which rock layer is the oldest out of all three locations, you should be able to tell me. And if you figured it out, hopefully you figured out that it was the gray siltstone, because that's the lowest one out of all three of these locations. It's the one that's farthest on the bottom. And we know that the ones that are on the bottom are the oldest because they were the ones that were deposited first. And then you should also be able to tell me which layer is the youngest out of all three locations. Which rock layer is the youngest? Did you figure it out? If you said it was the unconsolidated glacial deposits, or the till, sometimes they call it, you were correct, because that is the one that is at the tippy top, at the very top of all three of these locations after we have correlated them. Hopefully that was helpful.